Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jacob Lickletter, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story, plus a bunch of big Finnish productions, one episode a day, 7 days a week. And today, on the 23rd of June, 2018, we are starting the final John Pertwee season with The Time Warrior. Episode 1, The Time Warrior. Episode 1 is an episode written by, of course, Robert Holmes, while bringing him back to the writing team after after you have the everything going on. You have after you have after you have the story going on, we have the Time Warrior episode 1, where you have the Doctor introduced as he's kind of, well, a little, he's not out of character, but he is, since Joe left in The Green Death, he has obviously become a bit more harsh on the world. He became very, very sad. Basically, very, very sad. He's become very, very. He's lashed out at the Brigadier for just sort of being there, and he's lashed out at he's lashing out at everybody. He's like, hey, this. He's really annoyed. He's dragged into this plot where there are a bunch of scientists who have started going missing from they've started going missing from this research establishment. So the Brigadier thought, well, a good idea would be to just have everybody locked up in the same area, and so then you would have you have that being a thing where, well, you have the you have the Doctor sort of not wanting to help, but really sort of needing to help. It's one of those things where you get the feeling that the Doctor is just he's very sad. He's sort of gone into himself quite a bit. He hasn't really, he's kind of lost the will to live after Joe has left. Eventually, this episode, just the problem actually gets him sort of back into that mood of being, at least having a good, having a good little sort of thing where it's like, yeah, let's go on with this. I've been reinvigorated with this problem to solve. Like, where are they disappearing? He also gets to have some really good interactions with his new companion. Yes, you have the introduction of one of the most famous companion of Doctor Who in general, Sarah Jane Smith, who is introduced here as a sort of a plucky young journalist who has sort of wheedled her way into the situation, basically because it's like, well, my aunt got this invitation, you see, and I'm a journalist, so I heard these scientists were disappearing. I want a good story, so I'm coming here. That's going to be interesting. Come on, give me something interesting. It'll be fun. Let's have that. Now, that is most definitely an interesting way of introducing the companion, because, well, again, she's introduced, but she's not, she has, she's spunky. She has her sense of complete adventure. She knows that she wants to live. She wants to see how the world's, reacting to things. Like, this is all a fun little adventure for her. Like, it's not. It's and she's trying to work out. She thinks she's suspicious of the Doctor, so she even sneaks aboard his TARDIS, and that's fun. And now what's nice is that this story is primarily focused on having, it's primarily focused on having the a lot of it is set very much in the past. It's not really set in the present. Like, it's set in the early Middle Ages, where you have this captain, Irongron, who has taken a castle by force, and he's been living. And the castle it's a bad castle. Like, he's not taking care of it. He's not a very good leader. He has problems with just leadership and just about everything. So you have that happening. Well, that leads to the story that, and what happens, the science. This is the first time we are really back into back into history. You have the Doctor there, and with that you have something rather interesting in that the you have the Doctor and company making. You have the Doctor. It's back in history, and we have an alien invasion. This is a Robert Holmes script that introduces the Sontarans, who really we know that he's from the future. We don't really know that it's an alien until, of course, obviously going back after you know that it's a Sontaran, but the director does a really good job of trying to make that it might just be a person from the future. There's a bunch of misdirects. It's not necessarily actually an alien who has basically been working with this Irongron to try and stealing the professor just so he could get a spaceship working. And so you just sort of, you have that, you have everything, you have everything building up with that. It's a very, very good, story. It's a very good introduction to the plot. We have a great companion. Irongron and Bloodaxe have great chemistry. You also have just the fact that the Doctor, the Doctor sort of knows what's going on and is he doesn't care that he's being suspicious. That Joe thinks that Sarah Jane thinks that he's that he's in charge of it. No, he's totally fine with that. Like it's good to see the Doctor out of his funk. It's the perfect introduction to getting the story going. So I'm going to give the Time Warrior episode 1 a perfect 10 out of 10. Alright, it is the 24th of June 2018, and I just finished watching part 2 of the Time Warrior. And part 2 of the Time Warrior shows a few cracks. A lot of the cracks actually come from the way that Alan Bromley decides to shoot the direction. This is Alan Bromley's first Doctor Who serial, and it's not a badly directed episode by any means. I actually think Bromley does a really good job of getting quite a bit done in the episode to, just sort of be as as a story. Like, you have quite a bit with you have quite a bit going on with the story to sort of back up for a couple of last digressions. Mainly, I'm talking about the fact that there are points in this episode where essentially for the story you have the what's essentially a big, ginormous, just like a bunch of shots sort of that are just pulled back. They're shots done from further away, which doesn't really help the story in any way. Like, it doesn't give the story. The design with that just doesn't work like that. It doesn't work well with that as a production design for the production choice. Like, it just It doesn't look good overall. Um, it doesn't, it doesn't look, it looks, it makes it look tacky. Yeah, the location footage is well done, because because I mean, it's actually shot outside, including the cliffhanger where the doctor is about to get his head chopped off. That's another one of those cliffhangers. It's a really good cliffhanger. Um, but with this one, you have, it's just the direction is a bit pulled back, and it doesn't quite work pulled back like that. It's like, look at us, we're doing something interesting. But other than that, the story episode is pretty good. Um, you have, um, you have, you have Sarah Jane Smith proving herself to be a good enough companion. And she's like, she still tries to figure out, like, hey, why is everything so weird here? Like, why are these people still acting like they are, like this is actually the Middle Ages? Like, she thinks, oh, maybe it's like a pageant, and it takes for her a while to figure out that, maybe she's actually gone back in time to the Middle Ages, not just in some sort of I guess, simulation, and that's really good. Liz Sladen automatically sort of wins the heart of the audience. This episode is kind of sort of like a soft reboot of the show. The story has been, it's like, it's taking what we know and love about the show and sort of just changing it up and adding a couple of different things. And it does really, really well at that. It works as a story. That being said, there are a couple of complaints I have. You have that. You have, you have. It turns out that the Sontaran Lynx has actually been taking people, out of their own time. The scientists out of their own time. So basically, so he can fix his ship. And he's also going to be giving part of the drama of this story comes from the fact that he's been giving Iron Run and Blood Axe new weapons that shouldn't be used in this time period. Like, this is still the early Middle Ages. Like, the doctor even said that, if you give them these weapons now, they will have atomic weapons, by like the 18th century. Like, it's screwing with the development of Earth, and which probably would cause, as well, a paradox. You wouldn't have everything to be so good. It wouldn't work for humanity. It would cause a lot of problems, and just sort of that causing a lot of problems is what Lynx the Sontaran sort of wants. He wants problems to be caused. He wants to see the world in shackles. It's not. This is all like one big game to him. It's not anything all that special. Like, it's a game. It's not a. This isn't yeah, I'm perfectly happy and everything's good, and yeah, it's not. It's a game, and he is playing his game. He's not giving, and he's trying to play to win. It's not a big thing. But this is not a lot of plot happens. Just it's getting the Doctor and Sarah Jane implemented into the plot line in the 1600s. Which is it's done well. Like, that's done really well. Like, it's great to have them brought in into the fold, essentially, and just given essentially a good giving them good solid something to do. Like, it's not just there. But you also have things like the fact that you've got you've got Lynx still being manipulated with history, and that's a big crux of the story, that is manipulating history. You also have the Doctor actually mentioning his home planet for the first time. This is the first time we get mention of Gallifrey as the Doctor's home planet, and that's just playing great. Like, it's great. We have somewhere the Doctor now can call home. We can have him, be essentially a more we've just added. It just sort of happens in this episode. It's what's nice is it's not given a fanfare. It's just like, yeah, this is now a fact. This is his. We have his home planet that we've seen a couple of times before, and now we've actually, can actually be a part of it and see, like this is where he comes from, and it's his essentially his people. Like that's what the story builds up. With the whole his planet being the planet Gallifrey. You have basically we're just getting everything together. Sarah Jane eventually goes to Sir Edward's and Eleanor's castle, where they where she actually gets her own little plotline. She's sort of in charge of being like, right, yes, I am the one who is basically going to be in charge now. This isn't going to be you guys. It's going to be I'm going to take control of the situation and have and basically have everyone be basically I'm going to lead the troops. It's going to be I'm going to be the one to lead the fight. It's not going to be anyone else. And that's great. So just with all the greatness of this episode, outside of the bad direction, it really deserves a 9 out of 10. Alright, it is the 25th of June 2018, and I just finished watching episode 3 of The Time Warrior. And episode 3 of The Time Warrior is the one where everything... Well, this is where the Doctor and Sarah Jane's Doctor-companion relationship, for lack of a better term, sort of emerges. Mainly in the fake... in the sense that this is where they really start to work together. Like, you have Sarah Jane leading a rescue of the Doctor for Edward and Eleanor, just because she thinks, hey, he may be evil, but if we could get him on our side, then we could very probably, actually beat Iron Grun. And, well, the Doctor's only also happy to help, mainly because he doesn't want to see, obviously, the Sontarans mess with history. He also really doesn't want to see the problems with he wants to try to see all the scientists who are there get back home. He has really no reason not to help them. It's all his it's all his thought. It's all his. He thinks like, hey, I could, with this, in helping them, I could probably, do something good if there actually was, enough to be done. You sort of have to have, the Doctor come and help. And you know what? That's great. What's also interesting is that you've got the Doctor. Basically, he makes a bunch of stink bombs and smoke bombs, basically to be like, hey, this is how we're gonna, this is how we're gonna do it. This is how we're going to have, the Doctor really get a sense into this is how there's gonna be this is how the story is going to be told. Everything it's going to be things like this. This is how it's going to the story's going to go on. It's not going to be it's not going to work like it's going to be a it's going to be a story where everything everything goes on like it does. It's not a this is a I'm going to I'm going to help. Like you have the guy playing Link's Kevin Lindsay is just he's a riot to listen to. Like, he is genuinely hilarious. Like, because, well, the Doctor, you know, made a bunch of dummies to make it seem like the castle is more soldiers, and of course Lynx is he's the one who notices this, because he's the only one who's at least a little bit intelligent. Like, no one else is really, obviously he's surrounded by idiots. It's not, this isn't a, it's a thing that, they just sort of know that it's not, it's not one of those things that that happens. You have you have the Doctor, sort of being able to outsmart them, and it's one of those things where the story really works because of that. It's one of those things where you sort of know that, yeah, this is meant to be a full story. It's meant to be it's meant to be one where everything is built up around this whole story. Like, you have the story going on, and it's a really good you have you have the story going on with the whole idea of the Sontaran. It's all it all sort of comes together. Though part of the problem is that not a lot actually happens in this episode, but not a lot happens very well. Like, if that makes sense, because you have then the Doctor and Sarah Jane dressing up as friars. Yeah, they dress up as friars, and they decide, well, we're gonna invade Irongrond's castle because he invaded us. So, why not? We can just do this. So, they dress up as the as friars, and with that they go and, well, and the Doctor figures out, hey, it's Polka to beat the hypnosis. So yeah, it's just not a lot happens. It's a really good episode, but it's just not a lot happens. So I'm going to give Time Warrior Part 3 an 8 out of 10. Alright, it is the 26th of June 2018, and I just finished watching the final episode 4 of the Time Warrior. And episode 4 of the Time Warrior is one where the story essentially goes on to be a complete success of a story. You have this is the big episode finale, the big, we've made it, we're done, we're finishing the story off. And this one, it's got some interesting stuff. First off, you have Sarah Jane, in an attempt to make the people of the Middle Ages, trying to make the people of the Middle Ages sort of conform to modern sensibilities, something that, is never going to happen, because, again, this is a story set in the Middle Ages, not in the, not in the 20th century, when women had agency. Like, Sarah Jane gets herself captured, into, she gets herself captured, into a, captured in the castle and sent into the kitchens, where she's able to actually get the the Doctor's plan to actually work by essentially, you know, making no notice of herself and getting herself and basically pouring in the, pouring herself in, pouring into the sleeping potion. Yeah, the sleeping potion. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Pouring it into the drinks of into the porridge and food of the people of the castle. Well, the Doctor gets to have quite a few fight scenes, including one where he gets himself captured, like you do, and then and not just getting himself captured, he gets himself captured and is forced into essentially helping, trying to help Ironhorn's men with their aim, and that's how they're gonna kill him. Like he has his people shoot at them, and that's great. You have the Doctor finally sending back all the scientists again at the last minute, but is it's used as a it's used it's used at used with the Doctor saying essentially defeating Lynx through through trickery. Really, that's really how they do it. It's you have the people when they have the people doing their own little thing. You have the Doctor and company. Basically, Lynx ends up destroying everything in the castle anyway. Yet a lot of the people in the castle end up, ends up, destroying the castle anyway. So all the weapons, there's no things to the timeline. So basically the episode just ends with a satisfactory conclusion. Like it's not perfect, it's not bad, but it's a pretty good way to end the story. So I'm going to give the Time Warrior episode 4 a 9 out of 10. That being said, at the end of the story, this is the end of the story, we add up all the episode scores and average them out to give the Time Warrior a final score of 9 out of 10. Thank everybody for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Again, your continued support is great. And the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon will return not with the next televised story, but with the first of 2 John Pertwee-led Doctor Who radio serials, In the Paradise of Death.